You know why Israel will never defeat Palestinians? Because the majority of Palestinians are Muslim. And Muslims do not care about this life. We do not. All 1.8 billion of us, almost 25% of the world population, at any given moment, we are willing to drop anything and everything for the sake of Allah. We are willing to sacrifice our lives in this dunya, our bodies, for the sake of the values in our religion, for the sake of Allah. I have zero worries about the future state of Palestinians, what we're going to be like, what's going to happen to us in the future. We don't fear anything or anyone in this life except for Allah. And that lack of fear terrifies Israel and the West. As in, Israel and the West can continue to slaughter Muslims for whatever reason, but at the end of the day, we will still only ever bow down to Allah. Not to any government, not to any individual, not to any organization, only to our Creator. That's why it will forever be impossible to get rid of us. Palestinians have been under occupation for more than 75 years, generations and generations of our people being killed. And still, 75 years later, what do we all see in the content of what's happening in Gaza right now? What are all the Palestinians there saying after their homes are demolished, their families, their entire families are killed off by Israeli bombs? What do they say? Allahu Akbar. Hasbi Allahu ni'mal wakil. La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. Mafdik ya Aqsa. The Zionists and the West took everything from them, and they still only fear Allah. Whereas on the other side, the colonizers, settlers, they praise their government. They bow down to their country, to their leaders, living in constant fear of what we're going to do to them. Even when we have nothing, we don't even have a sliver of 1% of what they have in terms of capabilities and power. And yet, they still fear us. That's why all the Jewish settlements there are surrounded by these massive concrete walls with barbed wire, 24-hour surveillance, with soldiers at every entry and exit point. Look at Palestinian towns. You drive in straight. You waltz into that village. Why? Because we don't fear them. We don't fear what they can do to us. We only fear Allah. Because as Muslims, we believe in the right to fight for our own land, to defend our property. We know we're standing on the right side. Whereas them, they will forever live in fear because they don't have the same values as we do. That's why they always play victim. They always choose to play the victim role. Only people who live in fear choose to play the victim role because they're not strong enough to stand up themselves, to fight for themselves. Gaza is the perfect example. They are terrified to enter Gaza themselves and have to fight Palestinians face to face. Despite how well-funded, how sophisticated and advanced their military system is, they still will choose to fight Palestinians from a distance. Missiles, rockets. This picture, I grew up to this picture. This is the perfect depiction of what it means to be a Muslim that only fears Allah. They have all the military power in the world, and we have rocks, and they still fear us. They still have to pay money, pay for ads, pay for propaganda to win the fight on social media. We have nothing. I have nothing. And we're still winning somehow. Why? Because we don't live in fear. We have faith in Allah. We trust Him. We have numbers. We have bodies. We have no funding, and we're still winning. That's so embarrassing for them. I confidently and full-heartedly believe that if there were no borders in the world right now, there were no boundaries, every single Muslim, all 1.8 billion, would go charging for Al-Aqsa, running to reclaim the Holy Land. No weaponry, no guns, bare hands, running straight to defend Palestine. Because that is what our religion teaches us. And that is why the West has low-key established a war against Islam, constantly antagonizing us, setting up Muslims to be the villains. In the past few years, we thought it was getting better for us. We thought people were going to stop viewing us the way that they do, and yet what's happening in Palestine right now, the way that the West is reacting, is proof that we are still the enemy. Why? Because we only serve Allah. You physically cannot control a population of people who fear nothing in this life. Fear nothing but the being above us. All these governments and movements attempting to keep us in line, Western media, capitalism, invading our countries and taking our resources, telling us how to run a country, run a society, claiming that they're the standard of morality, claiming that they want peace, that we want violence, constantly making us look like the bad people, like the boogeyman, trying to convince the rest of the world, trying to convince us that our religion is the problem, that Islam is the issue, that we need to separate our religion from our lives and our religion from society, constantly trying to suppress us through various means: invasion, colonization, antagonizing us in media, oppression, apartheid. We don't care about that stuff. We just work around it. We literally just go, oh, okay, well, let's go this way. Physically cannot control the Muslim mind because it's never going to work. That's why there's always going to be a battle between the West and Islam, because we can't be controlled. The US can stop immigration of Muslims. That's fine. France can try to ban Muslim women from wearing hijab and abaya. That's fine. At the end of it, we're still going to be Muslim. We're still going to have more than 1 billion of us to make up for it. And that's why Palestinian Muslims, till now, after 75 years, are still just like, occupation? Okay, and when the Palestinian mother loses her son, or her husband, her brother, her father, to the occupation, she literally celebrates. She does zaghruta, thanking Allah for taking his soul, because she knows that that is an automatic ticket for Jannah. And that is the only objective that us Muslims have, to make it to Jannah. I'm not trying to spew some like conspiracy, look, they're trying to control us type talk. No, this is what we believe as Muslims. We only fear Allah. We only bow to Allah. Everything else is just background noise. And this isn't to disregard the Palestinian Christian population. Absolutely not. Palestinian Muslims and Christians are in this together. They've lived side by side in peace. Palestinian Christians are just as oppressed as Palestinian Muslims. Obviously, I'm Muslim, so I can't speak to what their view is on this topic. For the majority of Palestinians who are Muslim, like, we ain't about this life. This is also in no way to disregard or belittle the death and the bloodshed occurring in Gaza and in West Bank right now. You're all fighting on social media, standing out in the streets, speaking up for Palestine. We will continue to do so no matter what. It is painful to witness. It's painful to watch this all unravel. But at the end of the day, at the end of all this, we still have Allah. With Allah on our side, with Allah as our guide, we're gonna be fine. Our religion teaches us that there will always be people who stand against the individual who stands for Allah. Our ummah has had to defend our religion literally since day one, with Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. From then until now, we've had to fight for our religion, defend our religion against individuals and groups trying to suppress us. We're at more than 1,000 years later. And look, we're still here. We are the fastest growing religion in the world right now. It's estimated that by 2050, Islam is going to be the biggest religion in the world. And that's not even a stat coming from Muslims. That's coming from the West. So yes, we are in pain. We are hurting right now. And we will continue to fight the fight. But our hearts should be at rest right now. We don't have to be worrying about what tomorrow brings, because that is only for Allah. And as long as we are standing up for justice, Allah will take care of the rest. We're tying our camel, but we're leaving the rest to Allah, trusting in His plan for our ummah. Inna Allah ma'as sabirin.